Welcome back, Dr. Karlyn, to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Always happy to be here, Mel. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you. I find your work, Rob and I watch your work all the time, and it's truly amazing. What you do is so important. And I say this about because we do two different things, but we do one thing the same, which is I say, don't take my word for it. Go read their own stuff. To go to their own websites. Go look at what they're saying at their own events. They tell you the people that you are dealing with and that you expose are very forward about their plans. So first and foremost, I wanted to talk about what is the you oftentimes are saying that the real goal, all of this talk is about capitalism. I want you to define what exactly this socialist, communist, a lot of people saw you shared online, a legit communist march in New York City last week, which people should be aware of, is not a small thing. But so what is going on? Because there's a lot of false information out there. And if people don't know the enemy, then they have no shot. So just define that from the
Yeah.
top.
Yeah. The number one goal of the woke left, the socialist left, the far left, because they all come from the same place, is to abolish capitalism. That is the only thing that they care about. And they define capitalism explicitly as private property ownership. Now we have to go the next step and say, what do they mean when they say private property ownership? They mean your ability to own a home. They mean your ability to own land. They mean your ability to own properties that you rent out. They mean your ability to own a business. They mean intellectual property. They mean parental rights. They consider parental rights to be private property. That's why you see all the attacks on parental rights. And they consider your individual liberties to also be a form of private property.
Oh,
And
wow.
as you said, no one has to take my word for this because I literally have them on video saying all of these things.
Yeah, and they're very, very well organized, and I think that there's a big misconception out there about that. These are just some radical small groups of socialists and communists, but that's not the case. They actually are very well organized, and they're spread all over. But they have the way that they do it is they don't centralize. So, can you kind of explain their network and how embedded it is?
Yeah, so there are hundreds, maybe even thousands of collective groups across the United States right now that are focused on different areas. Now, listen, not all socialist, communist, Marxists are the same. They have different ideas. They have different things they're focused on. And so what they do is they form these little collective groups that allow them to do activism in their area. But one example I do want to bring people's attention to is just last week, we saw the launch of the Revolutionary Communist of America political party. Now, this is not a small deal. The organization that launched this, they used to go by the name International Marxist Tendency. They're now changing it to the Revolutionary Communist, like International, I think. But this is an organization that's been around since 1992. This is an international organization. They are entirely self-funded based on donations and book sales and event sales and all of these things. I cannot find any connection to George Soros or any of the other things. They are self-funded and they have an organized presence in over 30 United States cities. And they are not just in blue areas, they're in red areas too. And last week, they launched to 2.3 million views on Twitter, the
Wow.
Revolutionary Communist Political Party of America. And this is not even just in America, because we watched another video on my channel for my Socialism Saturday, where they're not only launching the political party in America, they're launching a new political party in Canada, in the United Kingdom, in Sweden, in Switzerland. They are literally coordinating an international effort. And what I think this is they're not using that political party to run candidates. They're actually very open about this. We're not using the political party to run candidates. This is the start of the communist revolution in America. They've gotten all their pieces on the chessboard. They've got their pawns moved around. They've got their kings, or their knights rather. They've surrounded the king, and
Wow.
now they're making their move. And I'm not suggesting this is going to happen in the next year or two, because these things take time.
Right.
But this is the organized effort to overthrow capitalism in America. And I very literally have them on video, Mel, and you saw this on Twitter. It's pinned to the top of my Twitter feed right now. We have them saying, here is how we're going to organize, and we are going to raise a red flag of communism above the White House.
Yes, they do, and they're getting louder and louder now. Is there a typical is it all races, classes, all of that, or is there a specific kind of person that is part of this?
Well, I mean, it is all races. They welcome everyone. And it's funny because if you talk to people on the political right, normally they say the far left hates white people. They hate men. They hate everyone that's straight. No, they don't. They really don't. They hate capitalism first and foremost. So there are a ton of white people involved. There are a ton of men involved. There are people of all different variety. But the biggest common denominator that these people usually have is they have a hatred for the American way of life. They think that this country is completely oppressive of normal people, and they very literally want to overthrow what they consider to be the capitalist government, the bourgeois government, and replace it with the dictatorship of the proletariat. And I should mention this too, because a mistake people make is they think that these people are like Bernie Sanders or AOC. In fact, the Revolutionary Communists of America specifically said when they launched their political party that they are doing this to rebuke Bernie Sanders and AOC because they feel betrayed by them. They feel that they've capitulated to capitalism.
Wow. Now, as far as capitalism and all the private property, do they believe that that property should be seized by the government? What do they think about the private property that exists right now?
They don't believe any private property should exist. So, as I said, they believe that the government should be able to provide homes for everyone. That means there are no privately owned homes. It means the government is assigning you your housing. They believe the government should be providing all health care, no private doctors, no private insurance. They believe the government should be providing all education. That means no private schooling, no homeschooling. They believe the government should be providing all energy. So the government's going to decide who can heat their homes in the winter, how much gas you get, where you get to travel, how you get to travel. They also believe the government should be providing all food. What that means is if you don't play by their rules, you don't eat. They very literally believe that every single thing should be collectivized. And beyond that, they believe that a collectivized approach where everyone owns everything is actually the natural state of the human being.
Wow. This is people have to understand this is not a small movement. This is a very big movement, and it's been filtered, as you've taught on this show before, through our universities, education, schools of education, schools of social work, all of that. Now, you do have talked about the distinction between, because some people are confused. They think that Agenda 2030 and the 17 goals, a lot of the things I focus on, are related, and they're not related. Do these people talk at all about that? Because it's also a good way for them to hide, is to kind of act like, well, that's, look at them, we're over here. What is the difference? As far as I can tell from watching your show, they're aware that people are confusing them.
Oh, they're complete. It's actually funny because on the last episode of Socialism Saturday, I have to make a clip of this. They flat out said they were laughing at the idea that conservatives are confusing them with the WEF. And they're like, if they only knew how much we hate these people. And I'll be honest, because I've gone undercover at their events. I've heard them talk in private. They do not like the WEF. They do not like Klaus Schwab. They do not like any of these people. They think they're too close to capitalism. Now, where people get confused, and I do understand this, is it does seem as though the WEF and these people who I collectively call them the radical revolutionary socialists, it seems as though they have the same goal. And because it seems like they have the same goal, people might assume that they're working together, but it's not like that. This is like two Major League Baseball teams both vying for the World Series. Well, they have the same goal. They're going to be approaching it in the same way, but it just means they're going to fight at some point. And for my money, and I'm not suggesting that the WEF is not a problem. I'm not suggesting that the globalist agenda is not a problem. I just think it's a separate problem. And I think the more immediate one that we're going to have to reckon with, purely because they do control the K through 12 schools, they control the future generations, are the radical revolutionary socialists, because they're the ones that are, again, they've actively formed a political party with the explicit goal of beginning the revolution here, now, today.
And it's very active on university campuses as well. All you have to do is look around. I saw you put up some flyers that are out there, and people are being attracted to it. Now, the other thing that we need to differentiate is that Blackstone, BlackRock, a lot of these companies are buying up single family homes all over the country with the you'll own nothing and be happy. Those people don't mean you'll own nothing and be happy and nobody will own anything. They mean they'll own everything and we'll just rent it. It's a very different thing but it sounds the same. So how do they feel about, they must hate the idea that all these hedge funds and stuff are buying up all the single family homes. That goes against what they want too, right?
I don't think they're even actually aware of that, to be honest. So the difference between the radical revolutionary socialists and that is that the radical revolutionary socialists don't believe people should be renting. They don't believe anyone should own anything. They believe everything should be provided for free for everyone, for free. Yeah, which of course nothing is ever free, right? But like you're gonna work for it in some way or another. But they very literally do talk about getting rid of money entirely. In fact, I recently covered, there's this elementary school class at the University of California School of Education where they're doing this months-long curriculum with like third graders where they're teaching them how to build a society entirely based on equity. Equity is code word for Marxism. Anytime you see that word come up, that is code for socialism. So they're teaching these kids how to build a socialist world. And what they're teaching these kids is that in the socialist world where they have equity, which means everyone will have everything they need, there will be no police because there will be no crime because everyone has everything they need, and there will be no banks because there will be no money. They're very literally talking about replacing that entire system. And so when you're talking about like renting out homes, that's not something they think should happen. They think that everything should just be provided for free.
Wow. Now, University of California is a big problem in a lot of this stuff, to tell you the truth, especially their education schools there. And nobody seems to be stopping that runaway train. It's been for quite a while.